Live from New York City, this is the Prayer Revolution. My name is Doyal, and I'm here with my good friend, patching all the way down from Alachua, Florida, Vira. And we start our day off every day. We've been doing it the last 40 some days, and we're going strong with the morning prayer. And then we have a discussion about what it means to live a life of prayer, because we could all use
Mhm.
a little bit of prayer, especially in these days and times. And we call our show the Prayer Revolution, daily podcast for the modern yogi. And it's interesting, that word yoga, because the word yoga literally means to connect. And prayer is that opportunity for us to connect our deepest, truest selves to a genuine higher spiritual power, for guidance, for strength, for humility, for reconnection. And so, with that, I'd love to invite you, Vera, to go ahead and do your thing.
Mhm. Super grateful to be with you guys and to take this pause to reconnect. And so let's get a comfortable seat and we'll pause whatever it is that we're doing right now just for just a minute or two. Give yourself that pause and just allow yourself to connect to your breath. Start breathing some nice deep inhales and exhales. It's so easy to forget that the source of our life, the source of our cellular energetic potential, our body's energetic potential is with these inhales and exhales. And so easy to forget those. So let's, with gratitude, tap into those nice deep inhales and exhales, thankful for each breath. And get into a space of just breathing and being, into that space of being and not having to do anything right now, not having to fix anything, not having to change anything, but just being right now. And we're going to be calling out, no matter what our faith is, background, or tradition, we're calling out to a higher power right now and helping to reconnect ourselves spiritually, helping to reconnect ourselves to our source. And so with that mood, with that intention to connect to what's most meaningful in our life, what's most important in our life, we're dedicating this time as an investment, that meaningful connection. My dear Lord, my life has always been in your hands. Nothing about that has ever changed. I know that you use whatever you choose not to remove, whatever challenges we may face, to help strengthen my faith in you, to make my confidence in you real. We ask you today to give us the strength to withstand the tests of life with trust, to give us the vision to reframe life in such a way that we may find joy, gratitude, and the opportunity to serve in each moment. Give us the wisdom to know that every moment is a test of our faith. Every moment you are strengthening our faith when we remember you with gratitude. So let us remember you, and together may we be those loving reminders for each other and all those whom we may come into contact with. Let us be instruments of your grace, of your love, of your compassion, of your kindness. In the small ways and the big ways, use us as instruments. And we call out your name to empower us, to help us to feel that yoga, that connection with ourselves spiritually and with you, our source. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Vera.
Thank you, Doyal.
How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Swaying side to side.
I'm just rocking back and forth. I got my little swivel chair over here, you know.
Yeah. Did you write that prayer last night, this morning?
I did. I wrote it last night. Yeah, I was listening to a, um, a sermon from Andy Stanley last week, and he was talking about a friend of his. It's really super moving story. A friend of his that Reggie actually is his name. I don't know
Reggie
if you've heard
Joiner.
that sermon. Reggie Joiner, you got it. Yeah. And just talking about, you know, how Reggie lived his life in trusting that life was happening for him, trusting that God, that his higher power was actually was with him, was always with him, and that never changed. Like, it's, you know, he was just seeing, like, he was always in the hands of his Lord, and that no matter what was happening in his life, and he was going through some real big challenges, and he just walked through them with such incredible integrity of faith, you know, such sincerity somehow or other. You know, I find it one of the most inspiring things that when somebody's suffering and struggling, that they still believe. You know, it's just like one of the most beautiful things. And to see, you know, they still serve, they still bring joy to other people's lives, and you know, and so Reggie Joiner, just his story and the way Andy Stanley tells it, one of those beautiful stories. You know, somebody whose faith was tested and been angry and resentful and frustrated, and he could have, you know, he had all the right to have those type of feelings and emotions, but he chose otherwise. He chose to lean into those difficulties and those challenges in a mood of service and in a mood of trust, and he's kind of memorialized because of it in his community as like an emblem of what's possible, an emblem of that the nature of the soul, the nature of our connection with the divine, that there's no limit to being able to continue serving and expressing love even in the most challenging situations. So very inspiring, and that this prayer that I wrote today was inspired by that story. And yeah, I want to have confidence. I want to have, like, just strength and confidence that life is always unfolding as a gift, as an opportunity for me to grow and go and become more selfless in my love, and more selfless in the way that I serve. When I see, like, wow, every single day, like, I'm getting an opportunity to do that. Like, that's what's happening. I'm getting this opportunity to really actually tap into this limitless nature. It's not bound by circumstances. And yeah, so that's what I'm asking for in my life. I'm asking for that, and grateful to be able to share that with you guys today, and I hope it resonated in some way. I hope it was something that was able to touch your hearts.
Yesterday we were talking about the difference between being fearless and being courageous, and that being courageous doesn't mean that I don't experience fear. It may mean that I experience the same amount of fear, but that underlying that fear, or alongside that fear, there is a willingness to act and to move forward, even in the face of fear. And so when you mention, you're telling the story of Reggie Joiner, or you're talking about yourself, or that choice of when trials and tribulations come or things don't work out, um, the how easy it is to become resentful or angry or disappointed or lose faith. But then that choice is there, and you mentioned him as a person that chose otherwise. And so I was thinking that it's I wanted to ask you that is it that people who make that choice, do you think that he didn't feel those things? It's like, oh, that resentment, anger, frustration, despair, like, never came to him, and therefore it was just easy to just kind of go a higher road? Or what does it mean to be faced with that choice? Because sometimes it doesn't seem so easy, or it doesn't seem so straightforward. It's like, great, like, if I wasn't feeling depressed and angry and shameful and despondent, then sure, I wouldn't feel those things. I would just choose, I would love to choose faith and hope and love and resilience. But it kind of, it seems that that some people, is the choice easier for some people because they're not feeling those things? Or what does it mean to make that choice, and how do some people make it and some people don't?
Well, a lot of lot of questions and big
Yeah, enlighten
questions.
us. And also, what is the meaning of life?
For all of us individually right now. Yeah. And so
And
I
how
could
long is
speak to it.
COVID-19 going to last?
Okay. Let me get to those. I think we got enough. Okay. Another 19 minutes. We got this. No problem. Cover it. Yeah, I'm hearing you asking that question. I mean, I'm hearing you kind of reflecting back, and that we're all met with that choice. You know, we're met with that choice in our life. We're all met with it, and some people have very tough lives. You know, whether it's with the physical body or with the mind. The way the mind can be really, really toxic and somehow conditioned to negativity.
Mm.
And so, okay, some people kind of have a disposition where life just seems a little easier, right? It seems
Exactly.
it's like as I'm walking through the meadows and the sun's shining and I got money in the bank and I'm healthy and everyone around me is healthy. Just like
Yeah.
things are
And
just like going good,
and
And
those are the people that say just choose love and choose faith and you got to get over your angers and resentments.
yeah. And okay, so then you have, individuals maybe where life in the material world is a little more of a struggle, where whether it's physically or mentally, emotionally, that we're being tested, right? We're being tested on a deep level every single day of our life, or very frequently. And so then, okay, how does that work? Yeah, okay, it could be easier for somebody who's just experiencing the joys of life to see that, to see
Mm.
a loving, benevolent hand of God in their life. And it could also lead to complacency. It could also lead to, an unconscious kind of just, you know, lack of gratitude or deep appreciation for the
Mm.
wonders of life. And also on the other side, the converse, someone, we're experiencing suffering and we're struggling, and that could lead to depression. It could lead to fear and anxiety, and medicate you. We could just be completely like inundated in fear and overwhelmed by it, and just end up in that tumbling in the waves of the material world, just getting crushed by wave after wave. Or that those intense experiences, they help us again, to reach out. They help us again to be able to ask for help,
Mm.
and to desire
Mm.
support, to desire to be able to see the meaning and see the purpose behind it all, and to be able to come back into that choice, come back into the consciousness of choice. And
Yeah.
I feel so much of life is that, the dualities of life almost take away choice. If we're in the
Mm.
dualities of life, if I'm in the immediate happiness or in the immediate suffering, and I'm attaching to it, I'm just completely immersed in it, whether it's pleasure or pain, then I can forget, I can forget that actually I have a choice in this moment. And what we're talking about, in these podcasts, is I have a choice in this moment to remember I'm connected to a higher power, to
Mm.
remember that, that whether there's pleasures or pain, really where my everlasting fulfillment and joy is when I awaken spiritually, and when I can see
Mm.
spirit, in everything and everyone, when I can recognize that same spirit, and when I can see God in everything, then whether I'm going through pleasures or pains, I'm experiencing a deeper fulfillment. It's not on the surface, which is, is going to get rocked at one point or another in this material world. So
Yeah.
that choice is hard to come to. That's the,
Mm.
that's what I feel like relationship and what these conversations that we're having, that choice for me, I know sometimes it's really hard to come to that.
Mm.
I could be really struggling with an emotion, or I could be struggling with trying to make sense of life, and it can be challenging in those moments to choose, to surrender, to choose, that God is with me, to choose that, and to really go into that prayer, to really go into that consciousness through prayer, through meditation, through service, through just really through knowledge and wisdom, through really kind of cultivating that, can be super, super challenging.
Yeah.
And so that's something that, I really feel like that is the greatest opportunity that we have in our life. Like that is where the where we cash in spiritual life, so to say, where like those investments like yield like these amazing results and like the fruits of spiritual life, is that moment, you know, when when we're having an experience, whether it's pleasurable or whether it's painful, and in that moment we're able to consciously choose to remember God again, you know.
Yeah.
And that's hard as hell, man. It's hard in the pleasure, right? We get caught up in the pleasures of life. I know different times in my life, like I was just, I mean, in my, you know, my earlier youth, I still feel somewhat youthful, and
You're eternally youthful, Vira.
in my earlier youth, you know, my teenage years, my early 20s, it was sort of like, yeah, I experienced some pain, I experienced some suffering, but there was a lot of high, you know, there was a lot of highs throughout that time. And I was forgetting all through those highs. It wasn't like a catalyst to remember, you know. And also my suffering, you know, that it's been a major source of my forgetfulness and my turning away from a higher power, turning away from God. And I've also seen the converse. I've also seen, you know, seen on the other side. And so that's what I'm kind of seeing right now in my life, is that when we're talking about God consciousness, it's moment to moment, and we're working toward that. And I forget a lot. And this dialogue and being in this sangha, being this community, this group that we have each morning, it's just an investment in remembering. No matter what's going on in my life, no matter what's going on, it's like I come every morning and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, thanks DG, thank you guys, you know. And so that's I'd love to hear your thoughts on it though, because there's a lot to unpack there. It's kind of, in a sense, what we're talking about really is like, you know, it's like we want to become excellent at it, right? We want to become as effective in this state of consciousness as we possibly can, because that's where the gold is. That's where the beautiful transformation is. That's where the breakthroughs are. That's where the fulfillment is, and the pleasures and the pains, to see that there's a great meaning and there's a great purpose behind all of it. And that's in connecting with my higher power. That's in remembering my spiritual nature.
Yeah. I just love the idea that you brought up from the beginning, even speaking about now, is just that power of choice. Because I think, as you were saying, that you mentioned that life just seems easier for some people. And I think that, you know, like in the first step in any 12-step program is to admit that we are powerless over fill in the blank, and that our lives have become unmanageable. And so through those programs and discussion of those steps, there's a distinction that's made between being powerless and being helpless. And helpless is a sense of that there's nothing I can do. There's nothing that nobody can do. Like I am beyond help, you know, and it just has to be this way. And powerless means that like I just within myself don't have the power to change my circumstance. Like powerless means I need help, but I can still make that choice to reach out and call for help. And so I think that when anger or resentment is because this all started from, you're talking about this guy, Reggie Joyner, who made this decision to not, when trials and things come, to choose away from anger, resentment, etc. It's like those things will come. Those things will never stop coming. Anger, resentment, despair, depression, anxiety, those things will never stop coming and flashing into your life. But it's just like, okay, I can choose. I do have a power of choice to allow those things to kind of, like, I was reading this, there was this Instagram post the other day, somebody mentioned, control your emotions doesn't mean avoid your emotions. Feel your shit, understand your shit, but don't lose your shit, you know? And so it's like, allow that, like, it doesn't mean, like, so when you were telling the story of Reggie, I was like, something in me tells me, like, he's not a stranger to resentment, to anger, to bitterness. Like, people who choose higher roads in life, I don't think are strangers to those lower feelings. I just think it's when those feelings come up, they're like, okay, I can choose to just be buried by it, or I can recognize like no, I don't have to go that route. I don't want to go that route. And let me connect through meditation and through prayer, like, here comes this wave. Let me reach out and like, please don't let me be controlled and overcome by this. And so I think that's that for me, as somebody in my own life who has struggled with so many of those emotions. It's like, it's not that they go away completely. It's like, it's sometimes I can feel, and especially during this COVID time, it's very much, I think it's right at the doorstep for many of us. Some of us may have been struggling with depression and anxiety for a long time and feeling like, okay, we were able to kind of escape it or get away from it. And now it's like we're alone in our house with the fridge and the TV, and it's right there. And it's like, oh, but I know it's right there, but I don't have to like take that step off the ledge or go down that slippery slope. And I think that that's important to recognize, because otherwise it may seem that some people are just getting it easy and I just got it hard. But I think we all got it hard, but we all have that hard choice at the same time. And I think that that's and even when we even when we struggle to make that choice, we can always remake it. You know, it's never lost to us. You know.
Yeah, it's such a right. We're in a school that will never stop giving us opportunities to grow and to learn.
Nope, we're never expelled.
We're in that school. You cannot get kicked out, guys. Sorry.
You're not expelled.
But you can graduate. You can graduate. It's possible. Graduate. And I love it. Yeah, we're being given. It's like the most empowering thing in my life is that every moment is an opportunity. Every single moment is an opportunity. I was talking with our friend Jesse Johnson. We're talking about success, and the definition of success for me is that in every opportunity in life, no matter what's happening, I see an opportunity to serve, and I step into that service. You know, with courage, I step into that service. That is the definition of success. The ultimate success of my life is that every single moment to moment, I see the opportunity to serve, and I capitalize on that. I capitalize on sharing my heart, on giving my heart fully 100%. And that, you know, what I'm hearing you share is that, yes, like every moment is an opportunity. That's that is a high level of consciousness. That is the highest level of consciousness. And so we are working toward that, you know, to be able to see, you know, like the great investors of the world. It's like, no matter what's happening, they just adjust. And they say, it's like, okay, the waterfall was coming over there. Now the waterfall is coming over there. They just shift and adjust. And in the same way for us, it's like, okay, wow, like I'm learning this lesson. Okay. And then bam, then another lesson. Okay, now I'm learning this lesson. Every single moment, it can be challenging. It really is. It's really a challenge. And how we approach it, if it's like, okay, this is an adventure. Okay, like this is discovery. This is going to test me. This is going to teach me things about myself that I didn't even know existed. You know, let me prepare my consciousness each day to show up that today is going to bring me lessons. Today is going to teach me things about myself that I didn't know. Today is going to give me opportunities to grow in the way that I express love, in the way I serve, in the way that I express compassion, in the way that I express courage. Every day is going to give me an opportunity to do that. And that's going to go for the rest of my life. That's going to go eternally. That I'm going to keep expanding my ability to love, keep expanding my ability to take those opportunities and choose, right? We're coming to that, right? And choose, what am I doing with it? You know, so often the opportunity comes on my table. I'm like, you know, let me stare out the window for a little bit. Let me ignore that one. Or, you know, I'd rather not deal with that today, you know, or whatever it is, right? That's a little uncomfortable. I don't want to go there, you know? And it's like, oh, no, here, come on, still there. You know, it's the puppy dog ain't going away. He's going to come back over and come and wag his tail and nip at your heels to get you to actually engage with life. Yeah. And so that's kind of something that I'm looking at in my own life. It's that the greatest meaning or the greatest purpose that I find is when I give myself fully to life. You know, I'm looking for meaning and purpose in every moment. I'm looking for that, you know, and to the degree that I give myself to something, you know, I believe there's great value and great meaning in this connection right now. To the degree I give myself to this experience, to that degree I experience actually the fulfillment that's available in it. And so I want to give myself fully and courageously to believe that there is a limitless capacity in that, and to live responsibly, of course, to take care of duties and responsibilities, and to prepare myself to be in that consciousness and to be fit physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to give like that every single day. So that's my goal. That's kind of what I'm working on, and sharing that a little bit with you guys. And
Thank you.
Try my best. I'm trying my best, y'all. And you guys are inspiring me every day.
I was thinking about, it's very beautiful. Thank you. That choice of really of surrender. I was thinking that word surrender, and I was thinking that the choice is really not will I surrender or not, but it's really all of us are surrendering to something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes, those it's easier to we actually surrender to those feelings of anger, resentment, depression, anxiety. Like we're surrendering to those things and accepting, okay, you are the controller of my life. I accept that. So I'm going to surrender and give myself over to those feelings and just be consumed by them. Or I think the question is like, no, I'm going to surrender to something different. And so Srila Prabhupada had mentioned, I got to look it up, maybe I'll reference another time, in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in one of his purports, his commentaries, he mentions that the living entity has that choice, that ultimately, like we are naturally, our natural position is to live in a state of surrender. It's just, what am I going to be surrendered to? And so last night I was listening to a class by Radhanath Swami. It was the appearance day of Lord Narasimha Deva, divine incarnation, an avatar of Vishnu, and he was known as the divine protector. And so Radhanath Swami was giving this analogy by Srila Prabhupada about the elephant. Well, first he was talking about this the little tiny, in the river, you have this little tiny fish. It's little tiny fish. And the river, he's able to swim upstream, downstream, across stream. He's able to navigate through that river. And then you have the strongest animal, the largest, strongest animal on the land, which is the elephant. That elephant comes marching along. And when that elephant steps into the river, whew, it just gets swept away by that river. And he said, why? That elephant is so much bigger and stronger. He said, because that little fish actually surrenders to the current of the river and is therefore able to flow and move through it, even though it's just tiny and small. It's not like a matter of my own personal strength that allows me. It's like, do I surrender to that current and flow through it? And so I think that when I surrender to my own strength and my own devices, I ultimately get carried away by that river of life. But if I surrender, then actually it's not my strength that's going to pull me through this. It's surrendering to that current. And that current may seem maybe flowing in a different direction than I think it's supposed to flow, maybe a different temperature than I think it's going to be. We went and we bathed in the Ganges River last January with a group of pilgrims, and it was cold. It was freezing cold, and it was current. We had to hold on to a rock so we didn't get swept away. But that river may feel or look different than we think it's supposed to be. But I think that, that at every moment, it's like anger, it's very much like anger. Monday night, I got caught with my hand in the cookie jar. We were having a community group reading session with these pilgrims from India, and we were going around reading the Bhagavad Gita. And so my wife was reading that particular section at the time with the group, out loud to the group. And, we're sharing the Zoom screen. And our dog had gotten to our closet. My wife had just took him out for a walk. And my dog got into a closet and was eating my shoe. And I don't care if he's eating my shoe, but he was eating the bottom of the shoe, which is just so dirty. He had brought it in the living room, and he was like chewing on the bottom of the shoe. And it was like so dirty and disgusting. I was like, ah. And so I just let go of I just forgot that, hey, we're on it. So I got up and I was like, geez, I was like, you gotta make sure to close the closet door, And I was like getting up and I said that. And then I went there and my wife's just reading the Gita to this group. And and then I got back and I just plopped down and I was like, and then I realized oh, we're on a public Zoom call here, And I started laughing.
I was a witness.
Vira was a witness, and my wife, we started laughing. She's like, he was just uncensored there for a moment, But it was and then it turned out, I was going to tell you guys all in the group that I was actually the one that left the shoe out. It was me actually, you know, but we go so easy to blame. But it's like so many times when like something comes out, even in my marriage and relationship, it's like anger is like an easy choice. Like I feel it coming up and it's just like, it's almost like surrender. Like I'm surrendering to anger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surrendering to anger and I'm just going to let it flow. Because like in the second chapter of the Gita, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna talks about this whole progression of like becoming attached to objects of the senses that leads to anger, and that anger leads to the bewilderment of our memory. It's like we get carried away by it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like so many times I feel in myself, there's so many times when something comes up and it's like anger is like a push. It's like an urge. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I'm just going to give in. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to give in and let it just take over. Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that
Mm-hmm.
every urge, whether it's sometimes it's depression, sometimes it's anxiety, and sometimes we need
Mm-hmm.
things to help us out. We may need we may need physical medicine. We may need exercise. We may need things to help us control these things. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so, but still it's like a choice. Like, okay, I'm just going to surrender. I'm just going to let it take over me. And that's a choice of surrender. I'm surrendering to those things, and that'll lead us down a certain path. But then I think that we also have that choice of, I'm not going to surrender to those things. I'm going to surrender to the current of the river, and so that I don't get swept away, and then I can actually navigate through it. And so I think it's like surrender is, in one sense, I don't want to use the word mandatory, but it's like it's surrender is something that we all do. It's just, what am I surrendering to? And I think that, you know, for me, I get that very viscerally when it's anger or when it's something else. But when it's gossip, you know, we surrender to those things. Surrender to Netflix. Surrender to whatever it is. Just let go and surrender. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that the harder choice, and I think that's the courageous choice, and that's why we recognize those beautiful people you were talking about, Reggie, in the beginning, is that it's not that we're not feeling any of those things, but I'm actually making the conscious choice to just to surrender to something different,
Mm-hmm.
something higher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Grab onto that life raft, grab
Grab
onto
on the life.
something higher.
So choosing, being very careful what I'm choosing to surrender to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's the most empowering. That's where our free will is. That's where we're wanting to master that in our life. We're really wanting to master that. That's kind of that the aching that we feel in our heart and our minds and our, you know, yeah, I want to become an expert little fish in the river, surrendering to the current of God's will and a higher power, and experiencing that shelter and that protection and that knowingness that I'm moving toward the most fulfilling, most meaningful life, and that just keeps expanding as time goes on.
You're a cute little fish, Vera. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. We love seeing you guys every day, all our Zoomers that are there. And if you're on Instagram Live, you're listening to a recording, you can join us live on Zoom every day if you'd like to, or any morning. Just write to us at Prayer Revolution at bhakticenter.org to be in touch and to get the Zoom link, or go to bhakticenter.org/online to check out our Zoom link, or check our other podcasts and offerings. We are on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can find us there, share with your friends. If you haven't already, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating, write a review. We love to hear from you. We read the reviews, especially the positive ones. The negative ones we just kind of skip over. No, just joking. We read all of them and we want to hear from you. And we also want to hear your feedback. Write to us again at prayerrevolution@bhakticenter.org. Your feedback, what you like hearing, what you would like to hear more of, questions, feedback, any feedback from the show. We'd like to hear. We'd like to learn. We'd like to grow. And we appreciate you guys all so much. And we look forward to being with you every single day. Right, Vera?
Absolutely. Super grateful, guys. Have a beautiful day.
Have a beautiful day. We will see you all again very soon.
Love you, bro.